Hey everybody, what's going on? Mark here from TST Industries, and I'm not in the garage. We are out in the wild filming today our first ride review on the all-new third generation 2025 Yamaha YZF-R3. Now, as I mentioned, this is the third model in the R3 lineup, the first being released in 2015. We saw a subtle change in 2019, and now the third generation, the full revamp in 2025. Now, if you've ever watched any of our first ride reviews, you know that before I actually go out and give you a first ride impression, I like to give you the brochure stats. Now, these are information tidbits that you can find when you Google 2025 R3, go to a dealership, look up the pop-up flyers, or just trying to find out information on the R3. So before we dive in and actually go take this thing for a spin, let me give you those. Starting with the motor, we have a 321cc parallel twin motor. MSRP comes in at a whopping $5,500 US. MSRP, of course, that is without any dealer fees, tax tag, title registration, prep fees, freight, all that good stuff. We have 3 color options available for the R3, all of which are standard with ABS. We have this Team Yamaha Blue, a matte black Stealth, and then the third color we have is this Lunar White Nebula Blue combo, which I have to say, Yamaha knocked it out of the park. That is a beautiful paint scheme. It might be one of my all-time favorites, even going back to the 80s and 90s of motorcycles. It really just has this like pearlescent effect. It's a really cool looking paint scheme. If you haven't seen it already, please be sure to check it out. Back to the brochure tidbits, we come in weighing in at a whopping 373 pounds wet per Yamaha's claim. We have a 30.7-inch seat height on the rider seat, telescopic inverted forks up front. We have a 298 millimeter single front brake rotor and a 220 on the rear. As I mentioned, all models do come with ABS. And power, we are looking at 42 horsepower according to Yamaha. But I will tell you right now that we did put this on the dyno and we're coming in at about 40 horsepower at the wheel. So that's pretty much on par if they're reading it at the crank and advertising it as such. Now, this bike at its core is very, very familiar. However, in 2025, we do have some updates. Obviously, the biggest of which we see are the aesthetics. We have all new fairings, new lighting equipment. We have this revamped tail section with an all new tail light on the rear. The front fascia, we see a complete revamp. We have this new LED modern lighting with the singular style headlight in the center that we've seen on many recent Yamaha models, including the R7, the MT-09, the MT-07, even the R9. We're seeing this singular bulb style from Yamaha quite often. We also have a slipper and assist clutch on this. We have an all new LCD display, no auto blipper. We are still using ride by cable, not ride by wire. However, I should mention that when we purchased this R3, we did opt for the factory Yamaha option for the quick shifter. And we'll talk about that while we're out riding. And we also have a new top triple clamp, which kind of matches the aesthetic. It's really aggressive. It has these nice little cutouts. Some would even say maybe someone at Yamaha is taking a peek at what we're doing for aftermarket triple clamps, but I digress. We have this all new styling up front. We also have smartphone connectivity via the Y Connect app that is free on the Google Play and iPhone App Store. And we also have a USB-A outlet that comes standard on all models, so you can connect your phone or any other power needs like heated grips, things like that. And it's tucked away right here behind this front shroud. But as I mentioned, at the core, this bike feels very, very familiar. And that's because, well, it is. We have the same motor, just some slight cleanups. We have the same frame, same wheelbase, same swing arm. So what is new? Well, really, it really comes down to aesthetics. And some of these smaller features, like having the factory quick shifter option and things like that. But I still have to say that it's an R3. If you've been watching our channel for a while, you do know last year I took the Ninja 500 out for a first ride review, and not to really put this one under the spotlight, but you can get a Ninja 500 that has quite a bit more power than this R3 at its base model, starting at 5.3 thousand US dollars. So just $200 less MSRP, you can get a Ninja 500. So where does this R3 stack up? Where does this R3 excel? When it first released, we did see the Blue Crew Cup all overseas. That was a big race organization aimed at getting only R3s to the track. But the Ninja 400 came out and everything got pushed to the side, and now the Ninja 500, the Aprilia RS 457. So where does this bike go? Well, it goes anywhere you'd like it, honestly. It's a fun, nimble bike, super agile. It's lightweight. As you can see, the aesthetics are fairly aggressive for it being a 300. And I'd be lying if I said that a couple people didn't stop me and ask me what this bike was. It does look very, very aggressive. The stylistic cues that Yamaha has incorporated are not to be missed, and it has a lot of potential. And that's all I got for the brochure talking points. I can stand here and give you some more tidbits, but at the end of the day, you are here for the first ride review. Now, I'm not riding, so I'm failing that part. So I think at this point, we go ahead, I'm gonna gear up, and let's go ahead and put this thing through the ringer and find out just how well this all-new Yamaha R3 fares on the road. All right, so here we are on the actual 2025 Yamaha R3. And I should have mentioned this in our intro. You might be able to hear it right now, but we did install a full Yoshimura AT2 full exhaust. That does not come stock from the factory, so I felt the need that I should probably mention that in case it wasn't obvious in the intro. Now, the only things currently installed, because again, we do parts compatibility. So the process for us, before I jump into the R3 reviews, we get a bike, we usually buy them. We do full parts compatibility of products we already have in our catalog that may fit, may work, even some with little modifications, and then we give it to our engineer team and they design new products. In that process, between now and then, we have installed our R3, the full exhaust, so it is on the bike. You may be able to hear it. But back to this third generation R3. Now, again, at its core, it's the same as the last two generations, so it does seem a little sluggish, especially because I have recently filmed our R9 first ride review. So if you haven't already, check that out. But yes, if you haven't already, check out our R9 first ride review, where I make it very clear that currently that is my favorite bike. So coming from that to this is a little underwhelming, but for all of you viewers out there who are first-time bike riders, first-time bike owners, or interested in getting your first bike, you don't have one already, I don't want you to be intimidated, or I don't want you to feel like this bike is underwhelming, because at its core, it being a small displacement beginner bike, this is actually kind of the perfect bike. Now, in the intro, again, I did mention the Ninja 500. If you are looking for something that is beginner friendly, that has a little bit more punch than this bike, the Ninja 500, the RS 457, both of those are very, very capable bikes. Ninja 500, very comparable in pricing to this R3, but that means you get the very base model with no ABS. So just things to keep in mind as you are in the process of purchasing a bike. But you can see right from takeoff, this bike has a little juice. It doesn't got the sauce, but it has a little bit of juice. And if you know the difference, then you know.
And as you can hear, and you may be able to see, I'm not touching the clutch at all. Upshifting. The factory option quick shifter from Yamaha for this R3 is wonderful. I am very, very surprised with how smooth it really is. And although I am a little let down at the fact that it isn't a full up and downshift quick shifter, nor does it have an auto blipper, I'm very, very happy with the way the up quick shifting works on this system, considering it's about a $200 add-on depending on your dealership, and it bolts right on. And in order to enable it, you know, if you're buying it separately, you would have to enable it yourself. So after you mount it, you plug it in, all you have to do is have your bike off, and then you will apply pressure upward to the shifter and hold it. So you're going to go under your shifter, hold it up like you were shifting up, and hold it for 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds while you turn the bike on. Leave it on accessory mode, do not power the bike on, and then you will see this fancy little QS light pop up right underneath the gear indicator. That means your quick shifter is now enabled, and it's that simple. But if you do it without, if you don't opt for the quick shifter, this bike is still a very robust machine. And I think that the improvements or changes that Yamaha has made to some of the aesthetics, those are all subjective. They kept the recipe the same, and they put it in a different pot and served it to you, or us, I should say. And it's still grandma's recipe. It's a fun bike, more than capable of having fun in twisties. There we go, look at that. Very capable in the twisties. You don't get all the fancy tech, but you get a little touch of some modern amenities like the quick shifter and such. The dash, I do like this dash more than the old dash. Having a USB outlet is very, very nice. And these turn signals, they are ours. I should mention that, yes, along with the bar ends, the exhaust, we do have our MEC GTR front turn signals. And there's a full suite of products that we already have for this bike up on our website, along with installation videos coming to help guide you through the process. Ergonomically, this bike feels incredible. It's very, very solid and planted. For it being a small displacement bike, I don't feel like I am crunched up in the cockpit. Now, I will say the seat is fairly small, and I weigh about 190 pounds. I'm about 5'7", and I am very quickly finding myself running out of room on the seat. Frame, chassis, all that stuff, I still feel perfectly comfortable, but the seat, I find myself hitting the back passenger seat more often than not. But that's okay, because it is a beginner bike. Now, for you riders out there who maybe have a Ninja 400 or a Ninja 500 or even the Aprilia RS 457, you may not want to step down to the R3. But for any of you viewers out there who are looking for a beginner-friendly bike that looks good, it sounds good, and it has some components on it that make it feel like a premium bike, this is actually the perfect bike for you. The mirrors, perfect placement. I don't find myself putting my elbows in the way a whole lot, which I can't say for every bike, especially these small displacement bikes, small displacement sport bikes. Sometimes I find myself, I have my elbows in a normal riding position and the mirror's blocked completely, but that is not the case on this new R3. And it does pack a little bit of torque. I mean, if you get on it, you could see it does move. It scoots its little mighty heart out as much as it can. And I applaud Yamaha, I really do, because in a world where it's weird, we went from everyone wanting a fast bike, R1s, Gixxer 1000s, ZX10s, the whole works, Ducatis, BMWs, and then we got back into the small displacement market with the Ninja 250 really, then the 300, then the 400, 500, ZX4, R3. Even with those offerings, Yamaha stuck to its belief, planted its feet, and said, no, we're just going to offer the R3, and we're going to continue making it a little bit better, but it's a cost-efficient, user-friendly, beginner motorcycle that is a small displacement and can keep up with any bike that you'd like it to within reason. The footrests, they feel very good. They're in a perfect position to kind of lock your legs into the gas tank. And speaking of the gas tank, this is just a gas tank cover. So the gas tank cover itself is a hard plastic. But like I was saying, your feet, the way, depending on how you ride, me personally at this height, these ergonomics are kind of perfect. I lock my knees right into the tank. I don't feel myself sliding forward or back under braking or acceleration. However, we always recommend using tank grips to help improve that stability in your core. So if you're a little bit smaller or a little bit taller, you may want those tank grips just to be on the safe side, or just a personal preference really. We put them on all the bikes. They are one of those components that's, yes, we are going to put it on this bike, of course. And you can hear that quick shifter. I mean, it is Yamaha, great job on that. Now, one feature I like on this bike, and I don't really want to even call it a feature, it's more of just like the way the bike was built, is this little cubby right here. Right above the dash, underneath the windscreen, you have enough space to really tuck some stuff behind there. And earlier, while I was prepping to do this video and moving the bike around our shop and stuff, I kept dropping my gloves, and then I noticed that spot, and I tossed my gloves in there as I was moving the bike around the shop, and it's perfect. It's perfect. So I don't know, again, I wouldn't necessarily call it a feature, but it's just one of those things that you don't think about until you have the bike, and then you're like, oh wow, look at that, you know? That's a really nice little add-on to an already great purchase. And I mean, if you're able to get this bike out the door for $6 grand, I would say there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't do it if you're looking at a brand new bike. Now obviously, with it being an R3 and even just a small displacement bike, you do feel like it needs a little more punch, a little more power. So naturally, I can sit here all day long and just say how slow and boring this bike is, but I would be lying to you all. I really would. I think the controls, everything is in the perfect place. The clip-ons are a nice touch. Underneath the triple clamp is something I like and I prefer. It gives you a lot of adjustment range. You can see here that you're way above the fairings and way ahead of the tank cover, meaning if you install aftermarket clip-ons, you should have no issues with fitment or clearance on any of these surrounding body panels. Now, as I've been working on this bike more and more, I've realized that Yamaha did put the user first for a lot of this stuff. The fasteners, the ease of accessibility to certain parts of the bike, they really all are just super user-friendly. And they had the user in mind. Push-pin fasteners all around. For the most part, you have basic button head screws to top it off. There's no cheap hardware, there's no cheap components on this bike, even though it is a very inexpensive machine. And I'm doing the second loop now because I still have a lot to say before we actually head on to a faster speed limit road to see just how well this bike can handle some higher speeds, you know, some 70 miles an hour, maybe 80. But yes, even though this bike is fairly inexpensive for a brand new machine in 2025, even with all the features you get on it, they didn't cheap out on the stuff they did provide. You know, they could have gone with some cheap hardware to hold this bike together. They didn't. They didn't have to give you the option of being able to use a quick shifter and just say, no, it is what it is, and that's all you get. But they didn't. And I applaud Yamaha. I've become a really big Yamaha fan over the years, just because I think that they offer one of the most comprehensive lineups of motorcycles, and they all are very, very well rounded. And if you don't believe me, you can watch the R9 first ride review, watch the MT-09 first ride review, even my old MT-03 video first ride review that I did. All of these bikes are just very well rounded. Yeah, sure, we've seen the end of the R6 on the street, and you know, I know that really bothered a lot of people, and I go over that in the R9 video actually, because I've been on the forums and people talk about you know, R6 and R9 blah blah blah. Get that out of your head. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference for the R3, but it just goes to show, I mean, you have the MT-03, you have the R3, you have the MT-07, you have the R7, you have the XSR 700, you have the MT-09, you have the MT-09 SP, you have the R9, you have the XSR 900, you have the Tracer 9 GT, you have the Tenere 700. I mean, Yamaha has taken everything good about their product lineup and have offered them in several different models. And this R3 is no cheap out, no cop out. It really is a great bike if you're looking to get started in your motorcycle journey, or if you have some friends who are looking for, you know, to hop on some wheels and they're not sure which bike to get, and you're not really sure on their riding ability or self-preservation. The R3 is perfect. It really is. But the real test will see long-term just how well this bike sells. Where does it fit in the lineup when you look at some of these other small displacement bikes? You know, the competition is very, very stiff. And I think at the end of the day, it just comes down on personal preference and your goals for riding. You know, if you're wanting to just go fast, you may find yourself upgrading often until you hit that bike where you're just like, this is the one. But if you're looking to really sharpen your skills and hone in on what it means to be a safe, educated, and good motorcycle rider, the R3 is by far one of the most capable machines to really make sure that you are putting your best foot forward, or throwing your best leg over when you get on two wheels. Let's hear that quick shifter. And the stock Dunlop GPR 300s are phenomenal. They're really holding true on this first ride, and a lot of people have their personal opinions. You know, there seems to be camps for tire manufacturers, your Bridgestone boys, you have your Michelin men, your I'm just coming up with these nicknames, the Dunlop dudes or dudettes. We're all inclusive over here. But these GPR 300s, I like them. We've seen them on a lot of small displacement bikes, and I have no issue with them for everyday riding. Now, if you're looking to push lap records or do other things, sure, you may look at other tire options, but the option or the offering that Yamaha is giving people and bringing to the market with this R3, it's arguably one of the best value purchases in this small displacement world. Now, obviously, there is a ton to improve, and that's where we come in. What exactly are we doing with the R3? Well, I can tell you right now, performance, going into our works department and offering a nice boost to the potential of this bike is something we will absolutely do. Although that is not our bread and butter, we are not just a tuning company. We are a company that is aimed at enhancing your connection to your motorcycle with the parts that we offer. And we design every part that has a TST logo on it is designed in-house. by our team of very competent engineers who are all riders at heart. So yeah, we'll be doing some stuff with our works team and boosting the performance of this machine, but we will also be doing the cosmetic stuff, lighting upgrades, lever upgrades, crash protection, drivetrain, all things that you know and love. And of course, we also partner with companies and retail products for other companies of things we don't make, like windscreens and tank grips, Cormoto brake lines, things like that. So to answer what are our plans for the R3, well, how much time do you have is the correct answer. Our plans are very extensive, like they are with all of the bikes we purchase for R&D and to check out and see what's going on in the market. And only time will tell just how deep we dive into this market. But I will say that the future is very bright for the R3. My initial impressions, as I've already stated, are this bike is a really solid beginner bike, and I'm very happy with it. I think for suspension, the offering that they brought to the market, stock, is robust enough to get you going. But again, if you're pushing some lap records or you're chasing after something, obviously popping these fork caps off, dumping the internals, and installing a cartridge kit is the way to go. You can also ditch the rear shock and go for something a little bit more well built and purpose built, something that has a little bit more adjustment, because as you can see, we have no adjustment anywhere. Set your preload and pray to the gods above. Now we are about to head on to a higher speed limit road, and we're going to try and put this bike through the ringer and try and get it up to that 70 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour mark, see how well it feels, how much shake or how little shake we see, your wind deflection with this windscreen, things like that. That quick shifter is so nice. It really is. I do think that just initial thoughts before we go onto that road is a double bubble style windscreen would help immensely on this machine. Is the stock windscreen good? Yes. Can it be better? Absolutely. And you will see when I get into a full tuck here. Again, 5'7", about 190 pounds. If I scoot back, I'm already hitting the tail, and I'm in a full tuck now. And you can see my helmet still sits above the windscreen. So if you were to go with a double bubble windscreen, you would only enhance that wind deflection and wind protection, give yourself better aerodynamics, and really be able to wring out even more out of this machine. I have a fellow rider here. It's almost the middle of summer here in Florida, and everyone's out riding now. Oh, look, he has our tail light. Shout out to homie. Little does he know, TST is right here. Now, I will say that at 373 pounds, this bike is very, very nimble. And in fact, sometimes it's a little too nimble. I feel like I can scoot around a little too easily. Oh, that was my first issue with the quick shift, but I will blame it on user error. Now, for me, this R3 has taken a little bit of a back seat with Yamaha's newest offerings, especially the R9. Who is really looking at the R3 anymore, right? We have the R7, ditch the R6, bring in the R9, still offer the R1. Who's looking at the R3? And And I think that the correct answer to that is not enough people. Now, I will say that although I applaud Yamaha a ton, I do also critique them a little bit for some of the things that they could have offered on this bike, but don't. However, I will say that if some of those things were added on, we may be in an area where the bike is no longer under $6,000 or around $6,000 out the door. Things like self-canceling turn signals that we've seen on the new MT-09 and R9. That's a nice little feature that I think beginner riders more than anybody else would actually benefit from, because so often as a beginner rider, you're so dead set on making sure you're riding safely that you forget some of the key principles of being a safe rider, and one of them is sometimes leaving your turn signal on. Cruise control is also something that obviously Yamaha now offers on some models standard, but they didn't do it here. But again, those are all things that would would definitely increase the cost of this machine. And then you're looking at a $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 R3, and you look at it like, well, I could have just got an R7. So there's always a give and a take in these situations. And I know a lot of people may watch this video, especially experienced and seasoned riders, and say, okay, so basically what you're telling me is don't get an R3. And yeah, I mean, if that's the message you are receiving, you're interpreting, then yes, don't get an R3. But if you read between the lines and actually listen to what I am saying, I actually love this bike. I do think it is a wonderful machine, even at its super inexpensive cost, and with some basic features. Now, we are going to try and get up to speed here. Miles an hour, and I will tell you that even in my more upright position, I'm not fully tucked. I'm not getting a ton of wind deflection. I don't find my head being torqued to the side due to wind, and my chest doesn't feel like it's being beat up and battered. I feel very planted on this machine still, even though we're sitting higher up in the RPMs in 6th gear. It seems like we're giving it all it's got. It still has a little bit more juice. So, very capable bike. Now, obviously, if you're in an area where all you do is ride on the highway, you may want to look at a different machine. But this bike is a perfect around the town putt machine, around the town commuter with occasional highway riding. Absolutely. I would not hesitate to take this thing onto the interstate and give it all it's got. And speaking of which, obviously here at TST we have our own dyno. We talked about the works department. We will be posting some dyno videos of this bike while we're in the process of developing some cool tunes, some awesome tunes. We will be posting some dyno videos while we are in the process of developing performance modifications like our ECU flashes to this bike. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel some more. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Why not? Come on, like, what are you doing here? I also want to make it very clear that we are not paid by any of these manufacturers. If I was paid by Yamaha, I promise you that I would refrain from saying some of the things I've already mentioned. But also Yamaha, if you're watching, we love you. I'd love to be able to work with you guys some more. We all would. So don't be afraid to, slide into my DMs. Let us know what we can do to bring the TST flavor into the Yamaha HQ. But we will be doing some dyno videos. We will be doing a track video, hopefully. Hopefully we are able to take this bike to the track and maybe even stack it up against the Ninja 500 we have. And I would like to mention, when I was behind this truck, that was the only time I felt any sort of wind buffeting and a little bit of shake. And I think it's purely because of the aerodynamics. But right now, one hand on the clip-ons, the other one on my leg, doing 75 miles an hour, and I feel completely planted and safe on this machine. So this will basically conclude my first ride review. Obviously, I'm going to do the full outro. If you don't want to stick around for that for another 2 to 3 minutes, you can ditch right now. You can say peace out. We love you. Thank you for watching. But we are now going to head back to the shop where I give you my final thoughts and outro on the new R3. And hopefully give you guys a well-rounded and well-versed synopsis of my thoughts on this bike and what Yamaha is offering. So we'll catch up to you guys in just a few minutes in real time. In video time, we'll do our magic, and here we go.
All right, so here we are back at the headquarters for my final thoughts on the all-new third generation 2025 Yamaha YZF-R3. And now at its core, it is a very familiar machine. We know this power plant, we've known it for about a decade now. And there's a reason why Yamaha stuck with this instead of upping the displacement and the technology and competing heavily with the 400, 500, and even the Aprilia RS 457. And it's because this machine is reliable, it's proven, and it's fun. By not upping the displacement or adding in any new frills, they've been able to keep this cost low. So for all you beginner riders out there, or even advanced riders who are looking for a cheap entry-level bike, this checks off all the boxes. We have some new aggressive styling for 2025 that I really love that Yamaha introduced and incorporated on this machine, making the new R3 match with the rest of their R series bikes like the 7 and the 9 and the 1. Now, of course, we can do some much needed improvements on this machine, but why would you? It's reliable, it's nimble, it's fun to ride. You can really wring this thing out and know that it will do anything you ask of it except go 180 miles an hour. Obviously, if you go ahead and opt for the factory quick shifter option like we have, it really does boost the rideability of this machine, making it even that much more fun. So at the end of the day, I think that still the R3 is one of the best beginner bikes you can get. I think that the cost, you start looking at the Ninja 500 and it's tough to really balance it out. But you have to remember that Yamaha, in true Yamaha fashion, does not offer a non-ABS model of this. So you really can't compare the 500 base model to this because one has ABS and one does not. I think that the stylistic cues that they've incorporated, the new dash, even the new tail section with the new fins and tail light, really do lend this bike to looking more modern while still retaining its core recipe for a really good dish. So I love this R3. I think that a lot of riders out there should consider this for a beginner bike or an entry-level bike. It's nice to have in your garage. If you have friends who are learning how to ride and you're really not sure if they're gonna get whiskey throttle, the R3 along with the Grom are the perfect options for teaching new riders how to ride. And taking this thing to the track is actually a ton of fun. All gas, no brakes. So for now, this has been Mark at the TST headquarters in the garage. I thank you all for watching and joining us on the first ride review for the new R3. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up. It lets us know that we're doing a good job and we should continue doing more first ride reviews. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on to stay up to date with all the new and exciting videos we have going on. Of course, our bread and butter is offering parts, so be sure to stop by our website, tstindustries.com, We already have quite a few products for the R3 available, and our catalog will continue to expand as our engineers continue knocking out new badass parts. And of course, the #1 source for all this information to stay up to date with new videos, new bikes, and new products are our social media pages: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, and Threads, all username TST Industries. For now, this has been Mark at the TST headquarters. I thank you all for watching. Ride safe, hug your loved ones, and we'll catch you next time.